All right, guys, and welcome back to Realize the Self. I'm your host, Mark, and in today's episode, we're going to go over some attributes that are not characteristic of self-realization. We already went over numerous attributes that are, such as the four Brahma Viharas: empathetic joy, equanimity, loving kindness, and compassion. Now we're going to go over some poisons to self-realization. In Buddhism, they really have a fantastic concept of these poisons, and so there's three main poisons in Buddhism. They're the greed, hatred, and delusion, and this overlaps completely with the Vedic teachings as well as the Gnostic teachings, and pretty much across the board. These are so greed, hatred, and delusion are the three poisons that Buddhism talks about, and these are the main ones from which they say all the other ones arise, because there'll be a few more we'll talk about after this. So these are mental states that cause suffering and hinder the realization of the self. They are also referred to as the three unwholesome roots, or the three defilements. The first one's greed. Greed's another term for passion, attachment, or lust. Greed does not just mean money. This also means excess. You want excess of anything from the sensual pleasures from the senses. It is the excessive desire for things, sensual pleasures, power, wealth, as well as attachment to ideas and opinions. Society heavily promotes this excess through the over-sexualization of culture, constant fast food advertising, and the reinforcement of certain beliefs of narrative. I mean, you could go online, you could see people's YouTube channels and Instagram videos where they consume all this excess food. They're just stuffing their faces with all this food, and then they're dancing and stuff, and they get all these views, and they keep doing this over and over again. And some of these people are morbidly obese. They're just destroying their health for all these views, and society eats this stuff up. Literally, they love watching this stuff, and unfortunately it's a huge trap. It's part of greed, it's part of gluttony, it's part of the excess. And when you over consume, you actually further disconnect yourself from the self. Remember, the Sufis talked about fasting as like the easiest way, the fastest way, the most powerful way to realize the self and to sense that stillness within. And I wholeheartedly agree that fasting should be done in much more fashion than it is now, and we should be celebrating eating less rather than eating more. The world is a trap, like I mentioned before, and I will reiterate more and more over and over again. This world is to keep you looking out for happiness, while the true happiness has always been and always will be here. No amount of external substances, no amount of external food, money, wealth, power, fame, sex, anything, music, whatever, will ever bring you permanent, everlasting happiness. Only self-realization will. This world is a trap. There's no doubt about it. Caution must be used as we navigate through this world. Many systems and messages are designed to shape the subconscious, becoming default programming that binds a person to illusion. That's right, fast food companies everywhere. That's another one. You got McDonald's, you got commercials, you got all sorts of stuff coming up. Everything you see is designed to shape your subconscious, to keep you hooked into this world, to keep you from realizing self. There's no doubt about it. To realize the self, all these programs, attachments, and beliefs must be let go, allowing one to return to nothingness and inner emptiness where the self resides. Only with an empty hand can you hold the self. Only with an empty hand can you hold the self. And that applies to all these internal programs, subconscious programs, belief systems. All the techniques in the book and that I talk about in the videos are to empty those, to transcend those, to let those go, to see that those are not real. Ultimately, they're not real. Only the self is real. Only the self speaks in silence without words. The second poison we're going to talk about here is hatred. This is a big one right now. Everywhere you see, you have social media, you have political agendas, you have religious ideology. All these systems, these organizations, are to keep you in a perpetual state of disconnection, which is disconnection from the self ultimately, and a state of hatred, aversion, aggression, and anger. That's what hatred is. In this poison, it refers to rejecting or resisting anything one dislikes, whether external situations or internal feelings. There you go again. This was one I didn't quite understand for the longest time. Let's say you're sick lying in bed and you have this subconscious mental program being played over and over again. I don't want to feel like this. I don't like feeling like this. What you do instead is you accept everything as it is. You accept how you feel, regardless of whether your body, which is not you, feels good or does not feel good. You must understand that the body and the mind is not you. Only you is the one beyond that, in a perpetual state of happiness, bliss, peace. It is the mind that propagates that disconnection. When you reinforce the state of disconnection, when you say, I don't feel like this, I feel like this, the self, it feels like eternal bliss, love, but ultimately words cannot properly describe it. So even then, that it's a falsity when you bring anything into words, like I said, because you're automatically in a state of duality once you start speaking or thinking, and the self is beyond even that. And so that's another trap that keeps people in a state of suffering, is that hatred, that aversion, that aggression, that anger. And the news plays this, portrays this a lot with everywhere. They're trying to get people to clasp onto this belief or clasp onto that belief, or go on this side or go on this side. No sides. No sides. Don't pick any side. Righteous anger is another big one. One of the most deceptive forms of anger. It appears justified when people believe their anger is morally correct. Mob mentality can arise, often leading to violence or even death. This is what we're seeing in society right now, all across the world, the U.S., you name it. I mean, I'm in the U.S. right now, but you could see this play out all across the world. Mob mentality, people are protesting for this or this. They don't believe in this, they don't believe in that. They're fighting for this, they're fighting for that. Just realize the self. That's all you have to do. There's no need to go protest. There's no need to go anywhere. There's no need to go fight anything. That's what they want. This is a trap. Stay out of the world as much as you can. Stay out of the world. The world isn't real. The world is Maya. We're in a waking dream. The reality is, go over a video here shortly showing the evidence for that, as well as the ancient teachings. But the world is not real. Only the self is real. Find the self. That's all you need to do. Realize the self. You already realized. You just need to remember. You just need to get rid of all the layers that are covering the self up. A proper approach is to not identify with the anger or heighten emotional states, but simply to observe them. Yes, anger clouds clarity and weakens one's connection to the self. It actually further disconnects you from the self. If there is any anger or unpleasant emotion that arises, simply observe it. This is the most ideal way to deal with that sort of emotion, unpleasant emotion. And for everyone, it's unpleasant. It's not pleasant for everyone. Even the most advanced yogis may feel those unpleasant emotions from time to time. And all they do is they do not attach themselves to it. They just observe it. When the self is realized, it's not that anger never rises, it just simply loses identification. One watches emotions come and go like waves in an ocean or clouds drifting across the sky. You aren't the clouds, you are the sky itself. You aren't the waves, you are the ocean itself. Always remember, thoughts, emotions, the world, and even the body all come and go. Therefore, they cannot be the real self. Only the awareness that observes them, the eternal witness, is real, and that is you. Find that which is real and abide in the self. You are that. All right, the third poison we'll go over today is delusion. Delusion is another word for ignorance, the fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of reality. It is the root cause of the other two poisons. Buddhist and Vedic teachings align remarkably on this point. This aligns closely with Vedic concept of avidya, which is viewed as the core of human suffering. It is the ignorance of the attachment that one is the body or the mind, that one is the ego, but that is the false self. Avidya is the misidentification with the mind, the belief that the mind is the true self, while unaware of the luminous awareness beyond the mind that is one's real nature. Delusion, greed, and hatred perpetuate suffering, and according to Buddhism, keep people trapped in the cycle of reincarnation. And that's what these ancient teachings are telling us. This is also what's producing Karma, this is also what's producing the pendulum, which Vadam Zeland talks about. Karma is more of an ancient teaching. And also, if we get into that theory of Lush that Robert Monroe talked about in his 1985 book, then all three of those align. There may be one more concept related to that. I don't recall it at this time, but we could go over that a little bit later. And since while we're on the subject of poisons, we can expand to a couple more. We might as well, since we're here now, and we could expand to 5 kleshas, sometimes called the 5 poisons. Let's go over these briefly, since we're on the subject of poison. And these are mental states that obscure the truth and lead to suffering. Ignorance, egoism, attachment, aversion, and fear of death. They are considered the root causes of suffering and major obstacles to self-realization. It is wise to understand them alongside practicing the methods that lead to self-realization that I talk about. By recognizing these poisons and refraining from attaching to them, we can further ensure the path to self-realization, or make that path much straighter, much smoother, and more quickly realize the self. We already discussed ignorance, the fundamental klesha from which all others arise. It's the fundamental misunderstanding of reality and of the false self with the true self. Egoism is an identification with the false identity of I, the egoic mind-based identity, not the true self, but the illusory self. Attachment can be seen as a form of greed, but more specifically, it is clinging to experiences, objects, relationships, opinions, and expectations. You know, something that I just realized is, so ignorance and egoism, they're very similar. And I might have to clarify this a little bit further. This is from the book I wrote, so I might have to double check a couple concepts. But once we get into attachment can be seen as a form of greed, but more specifically it is clinging to experiences, objects, relationships, opinions, and expectations. I'm right, you're wrong, she's gone or he's gone, but I love them so much. Your attachment, someone passes away, oh gosh, I miss them so much, and years later you're in the perpetual state of sadness and suffering. And that's the ego, that's the mind, that's the false self. And so that can be seen as a form of greed too, interestingly enough. Aversion is the opposite of attachment. It's the mental resistance to what we do not want. It is surprisingly subtle. Aversion was a challenge for me at the time, like I talked about. Like when you encounter unpleasant situations, you try to resist it rather than accept it. Always accept it, surrender, and just let everything go. Just be at peace, be in tranquility. That's the nature of the self. Not wanting is very sneaky. We talked about that. The final klesha is fear of death. It's actually quite interesting. No, I wouldn't have thought it as a klesha, but it arises from a deep-seated clinging to physical life, born from the mistaken belief that we are the body. That's once again that avidya, that ignorance, that connection that we think we're the illusory self and not the true self within. This body, this world, everything in this world is going to turn to dust. It's going to turn to sand. Is going to be gone, including the physical body. And so the fear of death arises from a deep-seated clinging to life. When the body dies, we think we die, but that's categorically untrue. It's false. Clearly, all the kleshas have their root in ignorance, the mistaken identification with the false egoic self rather than the true self. But the truth is simple. We are not the mind. We are not the body. We are the pure awareness beyond both. That is the self. That is you. True self is immortal. We were never born, and we will never die. Only the false egoic self is born and will die. When one truly understands this without trying to understand it, one becomes free from the suffering that arises from ignorance and misidentification from what is not real. Self-realization is nothing more than freedom from this false identification. The self is absolute freedom. The self is you, and you are that. Thank you for being here.